Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and today is Sunday, the 30th of March in the year 2025. And I am recording this in beautiful, lovely, exquisite Escazú, Costa Rica, where it has been very hot. Thankfully, because a few days ago it was kind of chilly, and that's wrong for this time of year. Chilly, raining, that's wrong for this time of year. Anyway. We are here on the 30th of March, and that means tomorrow is the 31st of March, and we are ending the month of March. Tuesday is April 1st. If you can believe it, 1/4 of the year is complete, and it's hard to grapple with that. It's really hard to wrap your head around that because it's just flying by as usual. So it's a time warp, and thankfully time is only a construct, and we live day to day in ourselves, with ourselves. And so, how has it been for all of you? This is a hot weekend. We've had a hot weekend here. We've had, let's just say since Thursday, right? So from last week's podcast that Venus went back into Pisces, and Venus then conjunct Neptune right after that, a couple hours later. And then yesterday, Mercury went back into Pisces. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of things happening. The moon went into Aries on Friday, and then the eclipse happened yesterday at 6:58 a.m. Eastern Time. So this is one thing right after another. Aries, Pisces, Aries, Pisces, Pisces, Aries. So this is a very profound few days we have been in. And now, this morning, we entered a new paradigm because Neptune entered Aries for the first time in like 165 years. And so this is a new day, a new era, a new world, and we are opening some new doors. And interestingly enough, this morning, when I was laying in bed, not completely awake yet, in the moments of between eclipse and Neptune going into Aries, or my recognition of Neptune going into Aries, because Neptune went into Aries before I woke up. Neptune went into Aries at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 2 hours later. 2 hours earlier. So I was laying in bed, and I was thinking about the eclipse yesterday, which was in Aries. And I'm thinking to myself, on a day-to-day level, where do we think that we're actually trailblazers or pioneers? Do we think that? Do we see that? Do we acknowledge that? So each of us has this ability within us. And I was laying in bed going, Deb, remember that let's look at the world. Let's look at your life and how you were raised and who you have in your family and what your life was like. Who in your family picked up and left and moved to a foreign country? Who? I'm like, well, I was the only one in my family that did that. I had a cousin who went to Australia on a freighter. I think it was either the late 60s or early 70s. He traveled to Australia on a freighter. Brave guy. I think they may have even offered him a job. He probably should have stayed. Anyway, I thought about trailblazing and how we don't consider when we're doing that. And when we're thinking about doing something new, I think I'll take this class. Think about the people that you've grown up with, the people around you, your friends you grew up with, the people you're still in touch with. Do those people do what you do? Some people from doing those things, but like growing up the way we did, we weren't always encouraged to be trailblazers. Maybe some of us were, but I certainly wasn't. And for me to pick up and move to another country was not something people around me did very often. They visited other countries. They didn't pick up and leave. Then when I thought about it, then I'm like, how many people in your family meditate like you do for a goal, for healing your body, for healing your mind, for healing your flesh, for healing your soul, your being, your emotions. And then, of course, how many people in my family went to regression therapy, figured out the family secret, and then confronted my mother? Not many people, nobody did that. Nobody did that. So, like, Deb, you're a trailblazer in your family. Now, lots of people do lots of things that are not like this, or that are like this, but they're just not in my family. And I had to look at where I was a pioneer in that respect. And it was kind of, I mean, can you imagine? I just woke up and I'm thinking these things. So you know how my mind works, right? I said, I have to talk about this later. Because this is what we're looking at right now. When we have an eclipse in Aries, and then Neptune goes into Aries the next day, there's a big Aries pioneering theme here. We're looking at a whole new level of pioneering, what that means to each of us. And what does it mean to you to be a pioneer? I didn't inspire other people in my family to do what I've done. They don't study astrology. They're interested. They want to hear about it, which is good because, if I wasn't talking about it or if I wasn't making it my profession, I don't think that they would necessarily go looking for it. Although my mother did, but that was when I was very little, which is why I started looking at astrology. But this experience of what I've done in my life is these are just small pieces of what one person has done. What has the rest of us done? What are you doing? What are all of you out there doing that is pioneering in your family, in your environment? Like, what do you do that's different? That's not what other people have done. And opened the door maybe for other people around you to get inspired. And that's the thing. When we're pioneers, we get, our trail opens up, we open up, our path opens up, and then so do others. Other people go, yeah, really? Really? You did that? Wow. Hey, I didn't realize, I could do that too. Yeah, the whole thing is if I can do it, you can do it. Maybe you don't want to. That's another matter. But there's smaller things I do, like, I guess studying astrology and being an astrologer is like less of a jump than moving to another country because astrology is everywhere and you can do it anywhere. But where have you been a pioneer? Where have you been different? Where have you been a trailblazer? Where have you done things that weren't necessarily inspired by the people who raised you or surrounded you when you were growing up? So, my mother looked at astrology. She didn't go study it. I went and studied it. So, okay, she inspired me to look at it, but I was obviously very drawn to it, which is a whole other story. We are in a time of pioneering energy. We are now looking at the planet of inspiration, creativity, imagination in the pioneering sign. So this is a really, really profound shift of paradigm. We are in a very deep moment here. This Aries eclipse sort of broke open the door for us to now welcome Neptune. And Neptune will leave later this year, but it's going to go pretty far. It's going to go to 2 degrees. It's 0 now. It'll go to 1 and then 2. And then in July, it'll turn retrograde and then eventually make its way back out and into Pisces again, where it will stay for a little while and then go back into Aries next year. So we're getting a taste of it right now of what Neptune in Aries feels like. And this is something that nobody in our generation, nobody in our life alive today knows what this is. This is all new. So Aries is the spring. Aries is the flower poking its head up out of the earth. Aries is the seed. Aries is fertile. Taurus is fertile too, but I always think of Taurus as, hey, everything is blooming and now the flowers are out and the cherry blossoms are here and the lilacs are coming. And yeah, but it had to start with Aries. Aries is the seed we plant. Aries is when the seed we planted pops up and says, hey, I'm here, I'm alive. And it gets interesting. Well, nature is so full of metaphor, and it's such a great teacher. And when we look at nature and we see things that nature has done and nature can do and what nature is capable of, we have to look at it as something to be inspired by and to note for our own life. When you plant a seed, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And, usually if you're planting little seeds that are going to make sunflowers or, annual flowers or perennial flowers, you are going to plant the seed and it's going to come up and it's going to be good. But you don't know. You don't know how long it's going to take. Is the seed going to take? Maybe it won't take. Maybe it's not enough sun, too little water. We have to nurture it. It has to be nurtured. But you have to have faith, Pisces, that this is going to take root and happen. Okay? So when pineapples are planted, and I think they plant the crown. And the tree that brings the pineapple takes 18 months to bring a pineapple. 18 months to bring a pineapple. And this is phenomenal, right? So if you have a pineapple plantation, you know this and you know what to expect and when to plant and how to manage the pineapples. And I think one comes and then they can cut it off and then the tree makes one more pineapple within a year and then that's it. And that tree, bye-bye, and doesn't make any more pineapples, but you have other trees because you're planting the crown, so the seeds are planted. But imagine, who discovered that a pineapple takes 18 months, many, many centuries ago, to grow? And these plants, they're not doing anything. I don't know what's wrong with them. No, they're going to take 18 months, twice as long as a human baby. Twice as long as a fetus in the human body. So my woman I work with, Melanie, she always says pineapple season is coming because that means we're gonna bear the fruit. We're going to harvest the fruit that's been born. We're waiting for. But we had no clue. Think about it. You plant some cute little seeds for spring and then they pop up and you've got plants and you're planting your tomatoes in your garden for summer and they pop up and you've got tomatoes and things happen. You gotta wait, you gotta be patient. But you imagine harvesting pineapples? You imagine planting pineapples, they take a year and a half. So how do we trust and have faith that the seeds we've planted are actually going to become something? We have to look at what we're doing, water it, nurture it, go talk to it, make sure it gives some sun, and yet trust that the pineapple is coming in 18 months. That's a long heck of a time, Bananas come faster. All of a sudden the tree is like, boom, here's more bananas, they're coming. They take months to develop and form and get ready to be picked. But I've seen them now a zillion times. The bananas in our garden, they pop up and then they to grow pretty quickly, but they do need sun. And hopefully they grow and they become something before the animals get them, because the raccoons will get them and the squirrels. And so this is my point. Fertility. Aries is fertility. Taurus is when we start to see the flowers. And then, of course, there's the harvest, like at Virgo time or whatever, but it depends on the plant. So if you're planting pineapples, they take a year and a half. But nature shows us the way. And so now we have Neptune in Aries and the inspiration, the tapping deeply into spirit is now taking us on an open road, a trail that we have not seen before. So this is the start of the new week. This is the start of the new era. This is pretty profound. Meantime, this is a bigger thing, right? The big thing goes forward. The little things, Mercury and Venus, are going backwards, and they're still gone back into Pisces. And so our energy right now is probably exhausted. So if you feel tired, and I feel tired, believe me, and you are not understanding why you're not gaining your strength back, it's all this backwards motion that goes into a very watery sign that is the end of the zodiac that says, I'm hanging on for dear life. And I don't know what's going to happen. And Mars, that planet of energy and action, is in Cancer. And Cancer is opposite where Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So Mars is sitting in Cancer, and it's been there for a while because remember it was there last year, and then it went into Leo, then it went retrograde, then it went back into Cancer in January, like January 1st, and it's been there ever since, and it's going to continue to be there because it's not finished with Cancer by a long shot. So the energetics that we usually look to bring our life forward and bring our life into action and taking chances and risks and things, we don't have it. And it's an interesting dynamic. And I was thinking about, this is another thing I contemplated this morning. Everybody is moving slowly. We're all moving slowly. This is too much backwards and too much at the end of the zodiac. And it's too much plotting energy. Like watery signs and earth signs too can be really plotting, okay? So it's good that we've got some fire going on, but we're trying to swim upstream. That's basically what Mercury and Venus are doing. They're swimming upstream. And we're zonked. We're exhausted. This has been going on for a while now. And even though these two planets have moved back into Pisces, they took over where Neptune left off. And so they're now, like Neptune says, see you later, and goes into Aries, and they're like, okay, and they go back from Aries into Pisces. So there's this crossroads. They're meeting at the threshold. And the threshold is, again, nature saying, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Planets are from nature, right? Planets are part of nature. We're part of nature. We're not done. We're not done. We still have more to contemplate, resolve, figure out, feel into emotionally, and connect to. And we are processing so much right now, so much we're processing, that every day feels like we're just doing the same thing over and over again. And it's complicated. I was thinking about these eclipses, and yes, they're always high energy. They always bring things, right? But they were not like powerful, like pushing forward, things exploding, major stuff in our everyday world. Like I'm looking around at people and I don't hear so much news from my friends here. And I'm going, okay, it's quieter. And I think it's all the Pisces energy. I think all the Pisces energy has dampened the explosions. I think Pisces energy has sort of cooled the fever that comes with eclipses. And everybody's just like, yeah, going along, quiet week, yeah, whatever. And so this is a very different experience of like an Aries eclipse, right? No, there were things that happened. I mean, obviously things are happening in the world and people still keep telling me the world is crazy and the world is nuts and things are going really insane out there in the world. But we've got too many outer planets changing signs, and that makes the world feel crazy and out of control. But in your life, did you have major stuff? Like there are some people that did, obviously. And I thought that this was all sort of subtle, insidious, not obvious planetary energy that is making us exhausted and taking a toll on us. Okay? How's that? Meaning it's all Pisces. It's all this Pisces energy that we're wading through, that we're trying to swim upstream. And Pisces is like, it's where we go to sleep, right? So I've been really tired. I'm working, I'm doing my things, but normally I would have more energy every day. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had more. I'm taking my herbs, I'm taking my vitamins, I'm taking everything. But I feel like we are dragging our heels through the end of the zodiac. And that's what it feels like. There's despair. There's hopelessness. Remember a couple weeks ago what I said, my teacher said, the end of Pisces should just be called, oh, the hell with it. The destructive part of Pisces should just be called, oh, the hell with it. Because we don't want to finish something. We want to walk away from it. We're just too burned out and tired. It's like, oh, yeah, more of this. Yeah, I'm really tired. Well, we've got more weeks of this. Venus is going to line up with Saturn all of next month. And they're going to conjunct, and then Venus and Saturn are going to sit together for the whole month of April at the end of Pisces, at the end of the zodiac. So this is a very curious place we're in. And like I've said before on this podcast many times, and especially in these last months, this is, the end of the Easter story. It's the despair. It's the despair at the end of something big. It's like, oh gosh. And then Aries opens the door to, something new and resurrection. So we're looking at the end of something. And when you are anytime planets are at the end of the zodiac, it's just like, let me just drag my heels through the end. Let me just slowly get my things together, okay? And then we're going to have Saturn. Saturn is there now. Saturn is in the last degrees of Pisces. Saturn's in the last degrees of the zodiac. And Saturn is, Saturn's going to meet Venus like I told you, but Saturn's at 24 degrees of Pisces. Okay, so it's not right at the end, but it's close. I mean, at this point, it's conjunct the North Node. Venus is getting closer to it. Saturn is always feeling like, what's the use? At the end of a sign, Saturn feels like, what's the use? What's the point? Why should I carry on anymore? I don't understand it. But Saturn, at the end of the zodiac, is another matter. It doesn't feel like we can go on anymore. And maybe right now what you're feeling is the drudgery of every day, of the day to day, and you can't feel like lifting yourself up anymore. You can't feel like you can do it. I can't make one more move. I can't do one more thing. And this is a very interesting dynamic. This is a very interesting place for everything to be. Everything, Neptune just left there. Venus and Mercury are going back there. Saturn is there. The North Node is there. Everything is winding down. Now, what do we do with this energy? How do we handle it? We just work with it. I tell you, you're going to feel better if you meditate, if you journal, if you exercise, if you go on long walks, if you go find a place to go swimming. Maybe it's indoors because it's cold outside. Find a place, go spend time at the lake, the beach, something where you feel like you are soothing your soul at this point, that you're in the energy of letting something go and moving on to something bigger, that the sleepiness and the exhaustion and the edginess you feel about moving forward and why are we not getting there? Why it's coming. Don't worry. It's going to happen. It's not like it's never going to happen. There are things in our lives that obviously are going to change. Things don't stay that way forever. They don't. And so, every day we have to pick ourselves up and inch forward when things are moving backwards. So this is a complicated, dense time. But it's an emotional time, and it's a great time to work on your emotions, and it's a great time to go deep into your meditative process. Immerse yourself in something creative. Go into the energy, because this is something that we are internally dealing with. I was talking on Instagram yesterday about how the eclipse is like all sorts of big Aries energy, but behind it are these planets going backwards in Pisces. And so we aren't really moving forward the way, like usually when there's a new moon, let's initiate, let's go. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Not so much this time, because we still have things asking us to step back and look inside. And the looking within is the place that we need to be right now. And then we're going to start feeling like we are, we can move obstacles out of our way. We can clear the emotional decks. We can cleanse ourselves emotionally and then step forward. Otherwise, we feel like we're just repeating. And this is really something that's powerful for us right now. Don't waste this time. This energy is powerful for us to use to step back and cleanse the past. Cleanse your emotions. Do some healing. Sit with yourself and journal, get quiet. It is a quiet time for contemplation. So this is something we really want to pay attention to and use. Don't just sit there tapping your fingers on the table saying, "Okay, I'm ready," but you're not ready. If you were ready, Mercury and Venus would be ready. Let's go. Listo. Let's go. Vamos. No, we're not in that place. We're not in that place. We're in a place of still refining the energy, still reviewing, revising, revisiting all of it. Okay? Mercury goes direct a week from tomorrow. It's Monday the 7th, and it will go direct at 7:08 a.m., so we'll be talking more about that next podcast, next Sunday. And in the meantime, you have a whole week between now and then to do some revising and revisiting and rereading and reviewing. And then by the end of that week, Saturday the 12th, Venus is going to be going direct that evening. So next week, not this coming week, next week is the week when everything shifts forward. But we still have a couple weeks of Venus, and we still have another week of Mercury, and the day Mercury goes direct is the day that Venus meets with Saturn for the second time. And she met with Saturn back in January, and now she's meeting with him while she's retrograde, okay? She'll meet with him again when she turns direct, but they are going to be so close all month, like I said earlier, and like I've said before on this podcast. So, this is the week to do more inner work, reviewing, revising, thinking, contemplating, musing, and really clearing the decks. There's some good aspects this week. We've got Mars trining Saturn on Friday the 4th. That's good for productivity, both in that water sign connection. We've got Mars sextiling Uranus the same day, which is 7:05 p.m. on Friday. And that's a good thing. That's like sparkly. That's bringing Mars's energy like back around a little bit. And then there's Saturn sextiling Uranus also. So there's this nice relationship between Saturn, Mars, and Uranus on Friday of this week. And that's good. That means like we're picking up, we're being productive, we're getting things done. We may have some realizations, we may have some real good connections. And then Sunday the 6th, we're going to have Venus and Mars trine, and that's good. That's good when the relationship planets are trining one another. And then Sun sextile Jupiter also that day. Sun will be in Aries as it is, sextiling Jupiter. That's a nice, smooth aspect. Jupiter in Gemini. And so we've got some positive, supportive energy from the planets this week that are helping us integrate where we are now. And don't be impatient. Don't be pushy. The last thing you want to be is impatience serves nobody. Impatience does not serve us. It's the universe's timing, not ours. You could sit there complaining about it all you want. Nothing's going to happen. The energy will move when it's ready to move. Use this time to step back. Use it to rest, for Pete's sake. Because once everything goes forward, then we're going to want to do things and we'll be able to do things, right? The day Venus goes direct is the day that the full moon in Libra kicks out the eclipse period, which means, again, Venus is still very connected to the eclipse period. And that's because she's the ruler of Libra. And when that full moon comes, we'll be done. Really be done after that. And then we can start to piece everything back together. But use this time, rest, get inspired, meditate, journal, get creative, go for a swim, go for a walk. Do things that don't require you to be on the ball. Yes, I know many people have jobs and they have to get things done. Yes, but in between those spaces, it's important to take a step back. Tomorrow, in fact, when I look at my astrology calendar, has no aspects. None. No aspects, not even like at a time zone that we are not in. It's nothing. Nothing is on my calendar tomorrow for astrology aspects. There's lots the rest of the week. But that says, don't worry about it. The earth is moving. The world is turning. We're still going forward. But things are going to be, in our personal lives, in our little lives, things are going to be quiet, slower, and they're preparing us. We need this time for integration, and we need this time for contemplation, and we need this time to just really recharge our batteries, because that's what we're doing. Aries is upon us, yes, but Neptune is there now. And it is an inspiring place, and it is a new dimension and a new era. But we won't feel it so much, I think, until everything really starts moving forward. We'll see some things. But in the meantime, think about where you're a trailblazer. Think about where you have pioneered something. Maybe it's at your job. Maybe you started something at your job. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's something big. Maybe it's something huge. Maybe you are pioneering animal rescue in your neighborhood. Maybe you are doing something for disadvantaged children. All of that is pioneering. Don't discredit yourself. Look at these things and see where you can get creative in that pioneering sense as we move forward through this new dynamic that no one knows what it's going to feel like with Neptune and Aries. I can tell you some things. I know the energies, and I've talked about them over the last few weeks. And like I'm saying now about pioneering and creative sense and being inspired. But the reality of it is we're gonna get some new information as the weeks go by. In the meantime, if you are interested in listening to more of my astrology information, you can go to Instagram, where I am the Golden Astrologer, and you can go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and book a session with me. And booking a session with me, you just have to click book online, and clicking book online will take you to the page where you can book astrology or a wonderful 5D Lemurian Reiki session, which is very healing and very clearing and wonderful for the soul and the spirit and the heart. And then you can also work with me longer term as we go through these dynamics of a new era together. 3 months, 6 months, 12 months with expansion mentoring. And I invite one and all to look into that. And if you're interested, you can contact me, info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com, and I welcome anyone interested. Ask me questions or whatever you would like. It's been an interesting week for me too, as far as, eclipses and things, and it's not like it's been dull. The other day, my neighbor calls me and says, "Did you know Santa Ana's on fire?" And it was like, really? We're in Aries season. We're having an Aries eclipse. The neighboring town here near Escazú is Santa Ana, and it was on fire. Like a park was on fire, not somebody's house. So it's like, oh, what's the eclipse bringing? So that was a something. It wasn't like, thankfully, I don't think anyone was hurt. But the fire department was there. We heard lots of sirens. We saw it on Instagram. And then also, I was walking in the neighborhood and some bizarre occurrence. I think I got there later, and I can only get bits and pieces of what happened. I'm walking down the street in my neighborhood, which is a very charming neighborhood, and I'm looking at this house, and it's all open. There's a big police truck in front. People are all in there, one with like a sniffing dog, and there's cameras across the street, so something's going on in this house. And apparently, there was something with a man, and he was detained, and then he drowned, and that something was going on. And it was very bizarre and mysterious, but I chalked it up to the eclipse as well. So it's not like nothing's happening during the eclipses. It's just that, you see, here it is. I couldn't get all the information about this person and what was going on. I couldn't get like all the information about the fire either. I was like, oh, and how did this start? And what is it about? And what park? What park is that? It's been bizarre. So yeah, it's not like it's an empty eclipse period, but there's nothing that we can't handle. We're in this together, and we got to just stay strong and stay with each other. And it's all about love and gratitude. So I have gratitude for each and every one of you. Much love to each and every one of you. And I hope you have a beautiful week and get some rest and let the information find its way to you. Don't push so hard. Thanks. Beautiful week. See you on the internet.